can only be attributable to human error.
You're entering Paranormal.
He meddled in things that you people. He meddled in
Slug.
things. He meddled in things.
Where will we go next? It's a phantom from another time.
No one, Mr. Muller.
That's it, man. Game over, man. Game over.
That is one big pile of shit.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Cryptid Campfire. I'm your host, Eli Watson. Today, I am joined by several Sasquatch researchers from the Olympic Project. Are unfamiliar with the Olympic Project. We're about to get into it, but also you should check out the Small Town Monsters documentary, On the Trail of Bigfoot, The Discovery, and Beyond the Trail, Olympic Sasquatch, which both feature the Olympic Project, and one of them features me. So without further ado, how you guys doing today?
Great.
Good. And
Good. How about you?
I need to introduce you guys. I just realized that. So I don't know. Just raise your hands and I'll introduce you one at a time. There's Chris. That's Chris Spencer. That's Shane Corson.
The pressure. Okay.
There's Cindy Cadell, and Rebecca Slick. And there's Shane Corson. And there's Chris Spencer. Thanks, guys. Obviously, we're all friends. We're all clearly making jokes, but my audience may not be familiar with you guys. So let's just start with, what is the Olympic Project? What do you guys do? Where are you guys at? Whoever wants to take it.
Yeah, I'll jump in here. So I guess I'll start out with how the Olympic Project got started. So the Olympic Project was started by two gentlemen, Rich Germeau and Derek Randalls. They started this whole project as a camera trap project back in about 2009. They started placing cameras out and formulating a plan to place cameras out on these ridge lines up in the Olympics. And they did that for a couple of years. And then, fast forward a little bit, we're a little bit different organization now. Like I said, before we were out there, or Derek and Richard Germeau. I'm over the place now. Let me start over there a little bit. So Richard Germeau and Derek Randalls, really started this project as the Olympic Project as a camera trap organization where they were going to try and capture a lot of known animals, and with the hopes of possibly capturing Sasquatch on camera. I do believe they've had some luck in that in the past. But after years and years of doing the camera traps, getting some amazing pictures of known animals, cougar, bear, elk, deer, every known animal, and a few suspect photos and videos. The whole project kind of shifted gear in more of a data collection project. Now, Rich Germeau, he's not really associated with the Olympic Project anymore. It's mainly this gang here and about 20 others. We do have a group of individuals to kind of lead the project, and we have other members that are part of the project, and that's how we work. But really nowadays we are basically a data collection unit. We're all like-minded individuals. We have many really unique individuals involved in this study, in this data collection. Individuals, like Chris Spencer here, Rebecca Slick, Cindy Cadell, that bring a lot to the table, a lot of different things. We have wildlife biologists involved, archaeologists like Cindy Cadell. We have, laymen, wildlife, people that go out and hunt, hike, and just a plethora of different individuals from all walks of life that are like-minded. Is what I guess I'm trying to say, like-minded individuals at the end of the day, with the pursuit of the subject matter, but more of a collection and data. We're not necessarily out to prove the existence of Sasquatch. We're about the data. A lot of these members in the Olympic Project really do know that Sasquatch exists. Either they've had a firsthand encounter or sighting, or they've followed the evidence that's out there for the public and looked at this subject matter and either believe or know that Sasquatch is out there. We do have some skeptical individuals involved. Some people have never had an encounter or sighting, which helps keeps keeps us grounded in general. But we really, at the end of the day, we are about data collection, exploring new areas, and just collecting as much as we can to share with other individuals, and bringing that to academia, and sharing that information, and just seeing where it goes. Like I said, we're not out to absolutely prove the existence of Sasquatch. We're more about data collection, and we've collected a ton of data and a ton of really good individuals that are involved in this study, because of last 2 years or so, because of the whole pandemic. It's kind of stopped us from getting together in groups and doing other stuff, but it's been a fascinating endeavor for a number of years now, and working with people such as these individuals here. So yeah.
Let me take this opportunity to thank y'all for watching Cryptid Campfire, and ask that if you enjoy our shows, please subscribe to our channel right now. Like this video and click on the bell so you can be notified each time a new video goes up. And now, back to the show.
And let me ask you too, when it first started as a camera trap project, was the idea of Sasquatch always in mind, or was it just for regular animals?
All the above. And I won't speak for Derek Randalls or Richard Jameau, who started the project. I believe the original endeavor was to get up on these ridge lines, some of these ridge lines in the Olympics, and just camera trap everything you can get on there, because a lot of your main predators, a lot of your known animals will travel along these ridge lines from point A to point B, because they can avoid man, and sometimes they're the quickest route from point A to point B. So I think their original plan was to capture all of the known wildlife in this area, but in the hopes of maybe capturing a Sasquatch off guard. And they do have a few videos or a few photos that I think are very compelling, using some of the reconnaissance cameras, very expensive cameras. So I think they did strike gold a few times, but they did capture a lot of known animals. So to answer your question, I think it was a bit of both. But I do believe that going into this camera trap project, they did realize that it was going to be very difficult, and near impossible to capture a Sasquatch on camera, but with the hopes that there was a possibility. And I think, one or two times maybe they did succeed.
Wow. And that's case closed, right? Like that's
It's never case closed, because we want bigger and better. We always want better. So it's never case closed, because even what they captured on their cameras back then, a lot of people could argue about it. And even if they got a crystal clear photo or video of a Sasquatch, people would still argue about it. So it'll never be case closed. It'll never be, oh yeah, you guys did it, you succeeded. We utilize cameras as a group here, and as individuals, we utilize cameras. And some of us have come away with some very interesting things, but it doesn't prove Sasquatch. You need more than that, and that's where the data comes into this, both with physical data, in audio collection and whatnot. And that's why we really, as an organization, focus on particular areas and spend an ungodly amount of time in these areas. And I think that's what'll help paint a picture with the known wildlife we're doing, what the seasons and the weather's doing, and then possibly what Sasquatch is up to if they're in the area.
Well, I was just gonna say, I didn't really start getting involved in the Olympic project till 2017, but I know everybody in the Olympic project has had a sighting or some kind of experience, and we're all pretty solid in our own minds that these things do exist. And the best way to prove that is to collect data like Shane talked about, but you got to get to know the areas. And that's what Shane was alluding to, is consistently recording all the fauna, the flora, the weather, everything about the area, because there's little hidden things within that knowledge that might point to this unknown. And I don't think, at least for me, and I know most of us are on the same page, I'm not out to prove Bigfoot exists, because to me, I'm pretty sure they do. I'm 99.9% sure they exist in my mind, but I'm not going to try to prove it to somebody else. I'm just trying to collect data that in the future someone else could possibly use to do that.
Sure.
if we actually get like a gold shot, another Patterson Gimlin film, but in HD, great. But I'm not expecting that.
Sure. And so one thing you guys kind of touched on already is you guys have different abilities, different skills that you bring to the table. And so I guess if we just want to kind of go around, like, what unique things do you bring to the table for this research team?
Cindy, why don't you go ahead and start? I've
Okay.
already talked too much.
No, you haven't. I like it when you talk, Shane, because then I don't have to talk. So with me, originally I was brought on because of my photography. I was a professional photographer for, oh gosh, 20, 30 years. I still do it, but they brought me on so I could analyze pictures, and they've been given pictures that are faked. And one I was able to debunk pretty easily, which was kind of a bummer because it would have been great if it was real, but it wasn't. So originally I was brought on for my photography skills. And since then, I think it's kind of warped into my anthropology degree where, well, Chris has an anthropology degree, and so he can reflect on that a little bit too when he talks. But so I think some of it is that also. I've been doing a little bit of a project on my own where I'm trying to collect different data that we would apply to like a cultural site, to sites where we think a Bigfoot was seen, or possibly was at. So just kind of see some patterns, maybe what's the elevation, how far away is the nearest water source, what's the soil like, what are the plants like, just kind of a collection of all the data that we can collect in that area and just kind of compile it. And maybe it doesn't mean anything now, but like Shane was talking about, maybe someday it'll mean something and we can turn it over to whoever, if this species is ever acknowledged, in the scientific world, we can say, well, here's what we have and take this, and maybe they could use it. So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Right on. Rebecca?
Oh boy. It's kind of weird for me because I had always wanted to go into science and then took another path in life and didn't. So I kind of feel like all the things I do, I don't have any credentials or anything, but I love it so much, and I love basically everything about the natural world that I'd rather be out there than indoors, and that's how I ended up spending most of my childhood. Unfortunately, was skipping school a lot, which I don't advise people to do, but I learned a lot that way. And my poor mom, I was always bringing home buckets of pond water and just salamanders and all kinds of weird stuff. So I kind of put that into studying the nest. I take tons of pictures. I still everybody up, but I just find everything fascinating, and I'm hoping that all the little bits of data that we collect, like Cindy said, someday it will be useful, hopefully.
Mm.
And she's a kick-ass outdoors woman. She didn't say that.
She is, Cindy. Thank you.
And she can train wild, crazy birds in the wild. Right, Chris?
Oh yeah. Honestly, she may not have any credentials, but she knows more about the fauna and the flora out there than most people with credentials. I guarantee
Absolutely.
it.
Absolutely.
We go out there. She may not know the scientific names by heart, but she knows the names and she knows the qualities and uses of pretty much everything out there. I mean, I'm even reviewing audio, and I'm not just talking about plants. She's a plant nut, but when I'm reviewing audio, I'll get strange audio. I'm like, because she's from Pennsylvania, so she's heard stuff from out there and stuff from here. I'll give her my headphones and she's like, oh yeah, that's this or that. And I'm like, oh, okay. She knows birds. She knows a lot of birds. I had a weasel running around one of my recorders one time, and it was after she listened to it, she goes, sounds like a weasel chasing a rabbit, which made total sense. And then she got online and she found weasel. I don't know which kind of weasel, but she found weasel squeaks that matched what my recorder recorded. So she's got a huge knowledge of the natural world.
Mm.
She's the go-to. Hey, Rebecca, what's this? Oh, it's this.
Well, I can
Thank you.
certainly attest to some of that as well from when I was up there at the nest sites with you guys, and Rebecca was naming the birds we were hearing, and I was like, I don't know. Yeah. So, well, Chris, what do you? So, Chris,
I do
yeah, what do you do, Chris?
talk a lot.
No.
I do audio mainly, but I do a little bit of a lot of stuff. I don't have a degree. I'm 9 credits shy of my degree. Yeah, I dropped out of college and became a construction worker. But yeah, I took 4 years of college at WSU, humanities and social sciences, history and anthropology were my majors, as well as landscape architecture. And so I got into this after an experience in 2013, and I had heard David Ellis on a podcast. I think it was one of Shane's other podcasts that he was doing before Monster X, and he was talking about spectrograms and sonic visualizer and recording. And for whatever reason, that really appealed to me. I really liked the idea of sticking an audio recorder out in the woods somewhere, leaving it when nobody else is around and just seeing what it picked up. And that's basically, I started doing that in 2015, and that's like my obsession now. So I went from recording like 2 or 3 days a week in 2015 to yeah, Shane can attest, we've almost got every night in the nest area recorded this year. My biggest problem is battery malfunctions or whatever. I'm constantly fighting my tech trying to get as much audio as possible just to put together a sound picture. And it's fun because you think you know an area, and then I say this all the time, you'll think there's something there or something not there, and you'll pick up these vocalizations from animals you didn't even expect. I'm always surprised by my audio. Well, not always, but you record long enough, as much as possible in one area, something's going to pop up that you're going to be shocked by. So it's fun for me.
Sure.
I guess it's my turn.
Yeah, Shane. So what do you do? Now, actually, we're gonna skip you, and we're just
Let me mute myself. No, I consider myself kind of a jack of all trades. I went to the school of hard knocks. Not that I've never wanted to go and partake in college or university. My life just didn't work that way, unfortunately. Wasn't in my realm. Grew up differently, and so like I said, hard knocks, no complaints. Love where I'm at in life, and being involved with a lot of these individuals here, being involved with people both in the Olympic project, outside the Olympic project, outside of Bigfoot. I've learned a lot over a number of years growing up in Scotland and now in the United States here. I've got to see a lot, and I wouldn't trade the traveling for an education personally. It's been an absolute blessing in my life, and the people I've met, the people I've worked with. Lo and behold, I know people like Bob Gimlin and Dr. Meldrum, and a lot of individuals out there that growing in Scotland, I was just reading about these individuals and learning about them. And here I am, I can call a lot of these people friends, and it's pretty profound. It's pretty profound. So I have no complaints. Now, what I've done in my time here on planet Earth is try to learn everything I can about the natural world, as much as one can, because nobody's born a scientist. And I commend all those that have gone down that road or could go down that road. but I'm trying to learn as much as I can about the natural world, about the environment around me, how it works, what makes it tick, my impact upon it. And so that's, my thing. I'm an avid hiker, camper, fisherman, love hunting, but I just love being out in the outdoors. I love tracking. Over the years, I think I've become a pretty good tracker. Not an expert tracker, not someone who's a degree in tracking, but I've done pretty well for myself. But then again, like I said, I'm kind of a jack of all trades. I love audio. I love recording audio. Chris has really taken the helm there, and David Ellis have looking at audio. I delve in it and I enjoy it, but these guys have taken it to a whole nother level. I'd rather be in the woods, observing, because that's, it's what science, that's how science started, was by observing. Nobody was born a scientist. They observe. And I just love to observe. I love to be in nature. I like to, observe the stuff, document it, think about it, read about it, and just make myself as much as an avid outdoorsman, and better myself that way, but also just absolutely exploring the environment around me and know more about it. So that's kind of my thing with the Olympic project. I'm more of a data collector. I like to go out there and, place trail cameras and audio units and look for physical evidence. And so that's just kind of my kick there. That's what gets me excited.
Right on. Well, this is interesting because two of you talked about anthropology, and I think that's a really unique take on Sasquatch. A lot of people just kind of look at it as an animal, whereas if you're looking at it anthropologically, you're looking at it more like a people almost, and what can you guys say about that? Do you guys feel like they are a people, or are they just more animals?
I'll say something really quick.
Okay.
Shane could probably, add to this, but I personally believe that they're a great ape, and I think all of us do. I think that they are an ancestor or a relative of man. Somewhere back, we were the same. Do you guys all kind of feel that same way? Because we're related to chimpanzees, we're related to gorillas. So why not? I think that we are related to them some way. How far back, I don't know. I know that they use Gigantopithecus as the model because we do have fossils on that, but I don't particularly think that Sasquatch is Gigantopithecus. I think they're related somehow, but I'm not sold that that's what Sasquatch would be. Do you guys have anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, this is one thing that I'm not solid at one way or the other. I'm constantly changing my point of view, and that's actually real science, because if you talked to me back in 91 when I had Grover Krantz as a professor, I would have been, oh, it's an ape. I would have gone with his hypothesis on it because I was 19 and he was older and smarter than me. Knowing what I know now, you look at the archaeological record or the fossil record, it's completely changed. And with DNA, the entire situation has changed. Science has had to redesignate animals into different families because of DNA studies. So our knowledge of what existed on this planet before is very small. And a lot of people don't understand that the fossil record for hominins, our ancestors, is not very large. We don't know what existed on this planet before us. And to find a fossil is like finding gold. It's a huge process for it to be created and then to find it. We don't know what was out there. There could be hundreds of different species of hominin that have not been discovered yet. So to say Sasquatch is related to us or not, I think is kind of putting the cart before the horse, because it could be something totally different. It's obviously on two legs. It's obviously got characteristics that we find in the fossil record with other early human forms, but it's different. It's its own thing. So I don't think it's just an ape. I think it probably, like Cindy said, is probably in the hominin family somewhere. But what it is, we don't know. um, and it's funny, and I say I go back and forth on this because a lot of the audio I record that I suspect is the target subjects, I got stuff that sounds like gorilla. I've got stuff that sounds like chimpanzee. I've got stuff that sounds like human beings. So what do you do with that? Well, you write it down and wait till you get something else. That's where I'm at with it. I'm open to it either way, but I do think it's more than an ape.
Yeah, I think I worded my question a little bit poorly, with asking if it's a type of people or if hominin is more of a correct term, is I guess what I was going for, and also saying animal, I think, denotes something a little bit less intelligent, like more like a pig or a cow, because like technically a gorilla or a chimpanzee is just an animal, but they display large amounts of intelligence. Like you can teach a gorilla sign language, that's a very intelligent animal, so and there's
technically we're animals. So.
Yeah, that's true.
Well,
That's true.
Yeah, we're great apes. Humans are great apes. So
I guess the question, it's one of those debates you hear all the time in the Bigfoot community. I think it's entertaining if anything, but no one really has the answer on it. But there's people that are hardcore. These are no smarter than gorillas. They're like, really basic forms. And there's other people who think they have languages and tribes and all kinds of crazy stuff. And I'm just saying I'm not closing the door one way or the other. I lean towards it being an earlier form of hominin that is probably not in the fossil record because it hasn't been discovered yet in the fossil record. Not to say there's not fossils out there somewhere, but I'm not going to go so far as to say that they have a culture like we do. Some people put a lot more into it, and this is just my personal opinion. They're obviously not making fire other than tool use. Well, the tool use that we can go by is rocks being thrown at people and obviously the percussive sounds made. Well, chimpanzees do that. So
yeah,
I'm not in the camp. I'm not going to say they're people, but they're their own thing.
Sure.
Yeah. No, nobody puts Sasquatch in a corner, right? I mean, we're not
right.
Nobody's putting Sasquatch in a corner, but we also don't try to put Sasquatch in a box. We leave it open because nobody here can say what Sasquatch is. I sure as heck can't. We hypothesize and then we elaborate on those hypotheses. But at the end of the day, I mean, the way I look at Sasquatch is this way. If it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, and acts like a duck, it's a duck. And Sasquatch acts
like a duck?
Yeah, just like a duck. No, but I mean, in all seriousness, though, if you look at Sasquatch, I mean, it does have this supposedly very primate-like behavior, but then it has attributes that are very, in some, human-like. So where do you put that? How do you fit that in there? Well, first of all, like Chris and Cindy will tell you, I mean, we don't have anything in the fossil record that we know of. Is it Australopithecine? Is it a Gigantopithecus blacksea? Is it in between there? Is it outside that? Who knows? But it does have a lot of characteristics that are very human-like and very primate-like. Obviously, it's not just your average ape. But once again, people think when you call something an ape, which we are, that you're downplaying the intelligence. Man, just look at look at an orangutan, look at a chimpanzee or, a silverback gorilla. Super intelligent. And Sasquatch, I would believe and know, well, I assume is much more intelligent, but still similar. If indeed Sasquatch throws rocks, makes nests, and makes the sounds that we recorded, kind of puts it in that primate area. But then you look at it, its physical being, its physical body. You know, it does walk, you know, apparently upright, though reports do say that they go down on all fours as well. It's got 5 fingers, 5 toes. Its foot morphology is similar to human, but different. So, I mean, there's a lot of similarities, a lot of differences. And so, like I was saying in the beginning, I guess to get to my point is that obviously we don't know what Sasquatch is, but it shares a lot of stuff with us. And I don't mind calling it an ape or a primate or it doesn't bother me at all. I'm not saying it's stupid. Obviously it's not. It's very intelligent. But if you look again at primates in general, a lot of them do well in small numbers, you know, and I think Sasquatch does really well in small numbers. And at the end of the day, I'm not gonna be so arrogant to say I know anything or anything about Sasquatch at all. So we got a lot to learn here. And science is learning every day about known primate, non-human primate behavior, and known animals. And so Sasquatch, I think, fits in somewhere in there. We just haven't figured that out yet. But the data collection is going to, you know, one day, I think, help with that answer.
And you know, I agree with your assessment that there's somewhere intelligence level wise smarter than the smartest of the great apes, but not quite as intelligent as human beings. And I certainly have friends, and I'm sure you guys have heard people say that they think Bigfoots are smarter than us. And I don't know why they think that. But I mean, what's your guys' take on that? I mean,
I'm going to chime in one more because it's on my brain right now. So
do it.
Intelligence is it's a funny thing. It's relative. Exactly. That's the word I was looking for, Chris. Relative. So I could be very smart in the city. I could be very smart doing whatever I'm doing that I know how to do. I step in the woods and all of a sudden I'm an idiot, an absolute idiot. I don't know how to start a fire. I don't know where to go for shelter. I don't know what to eat. I don't know where to go. I don't know how to protect myself. I know nothing. And so it's relative, as Chris said, it's very relative. Now, Sasquatch, that I believe lives in the woods and is very fluid in the woods and very intelligent in the woods, would seem like a genius compared to somebody that doesn't know how to live in that environment. So it is relative. You know, I mean, you only have to go as far as Sasquatch. Cougars and bears, these are animals that live out there, very intelligent, very cunning, know what to eat to soothe their stomachs if they're sick, that know where to find food, where to find shelter, where to go in the winter, where to go in the summer. I can't say that for a lot of humans in the woods. Now, you bring a bear or a cougar in the city, that they're going to be totally jaded. They're not going to know what they're doing. They're going to be confused, and they're not going to survive. They're going to get hit by a car or something. So it's relative. Intelligence is very relative to your environment, in my opinion. So Sasquatch, I think, is a genius, a ninja of the woods that's lived there for a millennia, that knows exactly how to avoid mankind, knows what to eat, knows where to go, knows how to survive. So that to me is very smart. You know, I'm not saying that they're building fires or making tools or anything like that. I don't think they need to. So that's just my opinion on that. So I know these guys probably have some opinions on this.
I
second that.
Yeah, well, I was just gonna pretty much agree with what you just said, Shane. And the only thing that I think about a lot is some of the experiences we've had, and some of the recordings I've gotten makes me think about their consciousness. And I think they're conscious of themselves in a way more than other animals. I think they will do things because they want to do things and not completely based upon instinct, where, you know, your cougar, your bear, your other animals, most everything they do is connected to an instinctual need. I think some of the stuff we've encountered shows an intelligence of that they're conscious and they're doing stuff out of sheer intelligence. I don't know. I just lost what I was going to say. They do. We're trying to formulate patterns a lot. And every time I think I'm on to some kind of pattern, I hypothesize all the time. And my hypotheses are never completely correct. And that's what a hypothesis is. It's supposed to be a test. And there's been times where I've said, okay, they're not in this area at this time of year. And then bam, I get a vocal that I believe is from them that particular time of year. So when everything tells me that they shouldn't be there, all of a sudden there's this vocal that says, well, yeah, they are. Someone's seen one there. You know, I guess that speaks to their intelligence in the fact that they can make decisions similar to us making decisions. Like I can choose to do things that go completely against my instinct. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yes, it makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Can I add to that a little bit too?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's always fun to just sit around and say, oh, what do they like? What do they do? But Darwin said that all animals basically pursue happiness. And so if we're going to apply that to all other animals, I think we would have to apply that to Sasquatch as well. Like, look at otters. They love to play. You see videos of them all the time, like playing on the hillside, you know, dogs, your dog can be sad or upset or happy. I mean, you see it on their face. And so I think that there's going to be a little bit of that in Sasquatch as well, if we're seeing it in all other animals. So
let me throw my 2 cents in here. Going off, this is like a really cool train of thought here, because it's true, we do chase after our own happiness. That's evident even in human nature. But I think what makes human behavior different than just other animal behavior is the fact that we are aware of the concept of time and aware of the concept of future. You know, touching on what Chris said about how I can decide to do something that's against my nature. Like I can decide tomorrow that I want to wake up at 6 a.m. and go to the gym. Like I don't necessarily want to wake up that early and go work out, but I know if I do that consecutively every day for the next 6 months, I'm going to get shredded and I'm going to look awesome. You know, it seems like, and this is like pure speculation here, we have no idea about any of this, but it's possible maybe Sasquatch could have a similar concept, a conceptualization of time almost, if they're able to break certain patterns and do things differently just because they want to. Maybe you guys don't agree. I don't know.
Well, I would say there's two different things going on there. You have will, and then you have need. Mm-hmm. So like you have the will to get up and want to go to the gym, but you don't necessarily, well, maybe you do need it, but maybe you don't have that need. You have the will to do it. You have that thought process. The one caveat I'll throw into your little, I won't say idea there, but your thought process there is that, you know, you got to throw into, like, I think Sasquatch can make up its mind if it wants to do something or not, and all of that. I don't know if it has a sense of time, but you throw in situations, whether it's weather patterns, and in you know, humans moving to an area, or that, you know, food sources. That's more of a need than a will. You need that food. You need to move because of the weather. You need to do this and that. Like, you don't need to get up in the morning and go to the gym because we decide to. Right, I don't think Sasquatch, you know, possibly there is a connection there, but I believe that Sasquatch mainly will go outside of its norm, just like most animals will, because of its environment and its needs. I think it's more of a need thing than a will thing. You know, I do believe that Sasquatch is very curious, you know, very curious. So then we can get in a whole nother conversation there, because curiosity, you know, as they say, kills the cat, but curiosity will bring you to a point where you don't need to be curious. You don't, but you kind of want, you will to be curious. You're curious maybe by nature. You'll go check out a farmstead, a house, or check out what these people are doing around a campfire. So there is a difference. But I think, you know, even canines are capable of doing stuff like that. Like, what are these people? Is there food over there? You know, let me check us out. What are they? Ravens, super intelligent. Ravens and crows, super intelligent. You know, dolphins, for example, they'll go out, around a boat and just check out people, play with them. Is that a need? No, that's more of a will. That's more of a curiosity factor. So there's a lot of variables there is what I'm getting.
I think that's a good distinction. I think so.
What I'd like to add to that too, is that the concept of time, like humans are always worrying. We're worrying about stuff. What's going to happen in the future? We worry about things that happened in the past. And there was a doctor, Dr. Robert Sapolsky, I think is his name. He wrote a book called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. And it kind of addresses that, how humans, we're always constantly worrying about things. And it's pretty unique from what we know to being human. So yeah, the concept of time, I wonder if they do think of that, like you said. What if, do they worry about the future? Do they worry about the past? It's just, there's so many unknowns.
Yeah, there really is.
I think
we could go on forever talking about that.
Yeah, I think Rebecca could speak to this, because I'll tell you why. And I love Rebecca to death. I'm not bagging on her whatsoever. But when Rebecca gets in the woods, I've seen it, and it's actually a really cool thing to see. Time goes out the window. She's so enamored. She's so enamored by the nature around her, and she looks at stuff that I pass up. She's just enamored with a leaf or a fig or a plant or a animal. Chris and I were like, let's go, do this and that. But I sit back and I admire Rebecca, because she's out in the woods and she's just really taking everything in. Every time she's out in the woods, it's actually pretty cool. So does Rebecca need to do that? Or does she will it? No, but it's really cool. And so
she's aware of her surroundings.
She's aware of her surroundings, and much more aware than most of us, right, Rebecca? You're just such an observant person.
I would hope so, because otherwise I'm just holding you up for nothing. But I think part of that has to do with, I was going to say, with animals having different personalities. And you can have two dogs and they can be totally different. You can have, even with different research areas, we have individuals that we're guessing are a little bit flee away sort of situation when we're there. And then we have ones that are just kind of little jerks and want to kind of mess with us, and I think kind of enjoy it. And they enjoy getting cussed at, I guess. And there's a few times I just wonder, why aren't you just running away? You'd think that would be nature.
You should tell them what happened last year when we left you all by yourself at the camp.
Oh my goodness.
I want to hear this.
Yeah.
Oh boy. So how do I set this up? Okay. So we were hiking. There were about 6 of us.
Yeah.
And I was the only female. And Chris and I had been hearing, and we typically don't smell things, but there was a pungent smell that every so often would waft into camp, and he and I would look at each other and we're both smelling that.
Well, when we first got there, when I was setting up audio around camp, there was a clear wood knock when we first got there right away. So we already kind of had our radar up. But anyways, go ahead.
Oh, well, there was that definitely. And I think I missed that because I was setting up my tent and I was probably talking, which is why it's important. Chris always sets up audio right away, which is really, really helpful. But I had heard some movement up behind us too, because I got distracted with some birds that were up there, and there was some other movement. So someone that we were camping with really wanted to go on a night hike and stir stuff up because they didn't believe us something was moving around. And I didn't want to leave the fire that someone had made, and I wasn't about to just leave the fire. I also didn't want to go anywhere because I knew something was there already. And I'm not really a fan of night hikes because I have terrible night vision. But so they all leave and I stay there to babysit the fire. And not long after they're gone, there was some kind of percussive right after, right, Chris? Because you have all the audio.
Yeah.
I had my audio going in camp too, so that's what picked up me a lot clearer. But
I had a recorder about 100 yards from her in one direction, 50 in another direction, and 30 in another. The one that was furthest from her was picking up heavy movement as soon as we left in a wood knock, and it got closer to her.
Yeah, the recorder I had with me in camp, which typically you don't want to have that, but once it got really dark in this area, it's hard to explain this area, but it's really thick. And you don't really want to go up there in the dark. You could twist an ankle in the daytime where it is, so I didn't really feel like going up too far, and the guys had really peppered the area with recorders.
Sure.
But when they came back at the bottom of the hill, we had a big percussive on a tree right next to the opening of this small little opening that we're camping in. And I may have angrily said some things that I would not normally say.
I have it recorded.
And yeah, things that I wouldn't want to see the light of day without being believed, or I'm embarrassed about it. But I basically
Excuse me.
yeah, I was mad at it because the sound came from where I was hearing something moving around. And so the reality that, dang it, this jerk has been hanging around here, messing, he's just getting this close, knows I'm alone, and, must not be scared of me. I'm not that scary. So, yeah, I was just a little irritated with it because this is the same area that we had the situation that's mentioned about in the film with the tree pushover was the next camp over. And oh
wow.
So we're thinking it's the same individual that likes to just kind of mess with people. And I was really mad because I did not want to be dealing with this again, because it took me so long to be able to get back into the woods camping again, and I just wasn't happy with it. So I may have yelled at it in some yeah. I don't want to go into
It's funny. It's a funny recording because you hear we can't say it was a Bigfoot. We just suspect it was because it's an area with we get lots of vocalizations there, and it just happened. All the guys leave camp, and all of a sudden something large starts moving around camp, and Rebecca's by herself. And at one point, it got close to her, and it popped off a couple knocks when we returned to camp, and she cursed it out. So go Rebecca.
There you go. Well, I want to ask you guys, talk to you guys a little bit about the nests without retreading too much ground that's probably in the documentaries that have come out, but like, what are these nests? Why are they significant? Why do you laugh like that?
Because they're so significant, in my opinion. They're they're just so significant. I laugh because I'm giddy. It's the coolest thing I've ever worked on in my life, to be honest with you, over a span of 5 years. They're super amazing to me. I get a lot of heat from people that don't know what they're talking about, and it's just but that's to be expected, and I'm cool with that. And I laugh at that because it's hard to, pictures don't do these things justice. Describing them doesn't do it justice. I mean, now to go back out there, you're going to see remnants. And Eli, you know this firsthand. You've been out there. There was not much to look at. You can see the general area. You can kind of see where some of them were at, but nature has a way of making these things disappear, deplete, whether it's weather or animal, or human taking samples. So with the nest, they're so unique because we're talking about individuals such as this timber surveyor back in early 2016 that came across the original nest area, and he never seen anything like this. And it subsequently afterwards bringing a lot of different people from all from academia to not a lot of people, but a good group of different individuals that are solid in their backgrounds, both living in the state of Washington and both with academic backgrounds, looking at these nests that were semi-freshly constructed and not knowing what the heck they were or what made them. And then looking at the fact that there were multiple nests in one area, in multiple areas, but in in formation, very strategic formation with and the amount of time it took to build these nests, the sheer amount of time. Like I said, there's so much we can go into on the nest. I know you don't want to make the show about the nest, but they are so profound to me that we have brought scientists and individuals that have worked with primates, for example, from different zoos here in North America, and they were blown away by them, and they were saying that they saw, they could see certain individuals from their zoo, like a chimpanzee, for example, or a cross river gorilla or whatever, bonobos, making these nests. They could see, different individuals making these nests, and they're all made out of huckleberry. And they're, there's just so much. I don't know even where to begin, but I will tell you this, that this is people argue with me about this, and I don't care. We can argue all day. People argue that these are bear beds, that we're being hoaxed, or that they're wood rat nests. And I can confidently say that they're not, because based on the tracks, the impressions we've casted, the hair we've collected from these areas, no claw marks, no teeth marks. And there's tons more to go along with this. How they're constructed. When you have huckleberry boughs, and these nests are made out of huckleberry, predominantly out of huckleberry. When you have huckleberry boughs pushed in the ground, and the nests are formulated around that. So what I'm getting at is, it takes intelligence. Now you can argue with me that maybe they're human made. Definitely don't think so. Actually, I know so, but you can argue with me about that. You can even argue that they're bear, which I know they're not. Wood rats are a complete idiot. I mean, just stupid to me. They're very, one of the stupidest things I've ever heard. Being, from California, I'm sure you hike in, Eli. I know you're from California. I've been up and down California, Oregon, and Washington. I've seen literally hundreds of wood rat nests. That is stupid. They're not.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this too. Bears, from what I know and what I've seen, because I'm out in the woods all the time, I've even seen bears lay down in beds. Bears typically don't make nests up here in the Pacific Northwest. Do they make nests? That can be argued, yes. But predominantly, they just scrape bark off and lay down in it, and they'll just rest in that. They don't construct. They don't grab branches 9 feet off the ground, and they don't collect stuff from 30 feet away and bring it back to formulate a bathtub of a nest. It's something that's oval in shape, not circular, sometimes circular, but in many cases. And they definitely don't do this. They don't make multiple nests in one area. They may bed down a few times in one area, but they don't make multiple nests of the same caliber, same depth, over a foot in depth, and leave hair that lacks medulla. They don't leave impressions that have 5 toes that are 14 inches long, not a double bear impression or double bear stamp or anything like that. They don't leave hand impressions. They don't. We've discovered rocks in this area that have been struck together. So there's so much leaning towards. You can argue it's not Sasquatch, but it's leaning way away from any known animal. I mean, so far away, it's indescribable. So I laugh because it is such a significant find, in my opinion, regardless of what's making it. We can argue about that all day, but just the nests themselves are amazing. They're amazing. So I'll leave it there.
Yeah.
No.
I was going to say too, in the documentary, I don't think I conveyed that very well, because there has been a lot of people that are like, oh, it's bear nests, but bear are like scooping stuff from the sides and just making a pile, kind of like what a dog would do, I believe. Whatever was making this nest had to have a thumb breaking sticks, and there was no teeth marks on it. You're not going to see a bear with his claw breaking sticks,
Right.
And
Let's see, piles his nails.
right. So I think I could have covered that a little bit better in the documentary. I mean, if it was some kind of bear that made it, how amazing. What I meant to say was, like, how amazing would that be? He'd have to be standing there with his little claws snapping it, and it wasn't like that. I mean, something had to have an opposable thumb to be doing that. And it's not a bear. I mean, like I said, they're scooping stuff in, and like Shane just mentioned, they're bringing products from, other parts of the woods and making this. And yeah. And also, and then other people are like, oh, it's, some hobos or something out there. And no, they leave trash behind. People leave trash behind. maybe not the Olympic project. We don't ever leave trash behind.
We pick it
But-
up.
it up.
We do pick it up. We do. But if that was some place that somebody was trying to bed down and hang out or whatever, no, there would be other signs there. This was very unique, very unique. And the land surveyor, the flagger from the what was it, Shane? It was a timber company.
timber surveyor. Yeah.
And he had been doing that for 30 years, and he comes up, he's like, oh my gosh, what is this? And like backs out, like looking over his shoulder. I'm out in the woods all the time too, because I work in the Forest Service. If I walked up on that, I'd be like, what is this? So it's just not something that's seen every day by people that are working in the woods. So it was very unique.
The other thing I would say, I got to go in 2017, so they were degraded, but they weren't as degraded as they are now.
Right.
And when I got to go in, even when you went in, Eli, we've been in there, so we've created kind of paths. In 2017, when we went in, we're like crawling on our bellies getting through this stuff. I can't think of a worse place to go practice your survival skills.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, just to even suggest that it's a bunch of bushcraft people practicing survival skills is retarded. If you haven't been there, you don't know what you're talking about, because no one's going in there to do that.
No, it's inconvenient.
Yeah,
it's an inconvenient location.
And it's just one of those things, like Shane said, people are always gonna argue about it, whatever. Unless you've been there, you don't know. And
And I'll add one last thing here. So, we found 20 to date. We found 24 different nests, and some of these nests, 2 of them were built into the huckleberry off the ground. So you don't just have the ground nest. You have 2 of these, what we call practice nests, built off the ground. So, I mean, if you have a bushcrafter out there practicing a little practice nest in a bush, it has no purpose. It will hold no weight.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to say what rules out human for me, and specifically bushcrafter, is show me a bushcrafter that isn't showing off their knife or their new axe or their new, katana boy saw or whatever. I mean, this was, every piece of that huckleberry was broken, and was broken with force, because some of that stuff we're not able to break, and at least not in the way that it's broken. We have to break it a different way. We have to, it just boggles my mind that people will stick to that. And I think that people who say they don't believe in it also, I think it's still a belief. If you think it's not real, you still have a belief on it. So you're picking one side or the other. It doesn't mean that. Sorry.
Yeah.
Eli, I was going to say, so we found these 24 nests to date, and I mentioned the 2 above ground nests. Todd Hill and I discovered the 24th one in the making in 2020, February of 2020. So we were looking at patterns of predictability, when they might be made, where they might be made, and we stumbled across one in the making. We didn't see the culprit. Very close. What we did experience, and this is in the film, in both. I think it's better explained in the YouTube.
The Beyond the Trail.
Beyond the Trail. I think it's better explained there. I think there's actual footage of us, Todd Hill and I, experiencing this. But we were approached by something, walking in on something, making this, but approached by something, and it circled around us. And we later discovered hand impressions and foot impressions. And that's really cool stuff to me. Trust me, it blows my mind. But what was really cool for me personally was discovering this huge pile of huckleberry that had been collected, that was starting to be formulated into a nest from that area, from within that day, if not 2 days. And I assume it was collected that day. Everything was fresh. So, and I didn't see a bushcrafter. I didn't see a bear. Whatever was moving around was very big, very heavy, and can move around very swiftly. Knew its environment so well. I run into bears quite frequently, especially, not this time of year per se. Most of the bears are kind of semi-hibernating and bunkering down, but during the year on these areas, you do run into bear in many other areas. And the bear will always take almost a straight line run away from you. They don't zigzag, and they just, they see you, or you don't see them. You just hear them crash, 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 boom. you do see them from a distance, they'll look at you and they'll about their business. This thing came at us and then it went around us, and it didn't go away right away. But it also was collecting huckleberry fresh from a foot off the ground to 8.5, 9 feet off the ground. No claw marks once again. As Cindy stated earlier or pointed out, this definitely took something with a opposable thumb. So once again, we came across something in the making, a nest with, I mean, a tremendous amount of huckleberry that took maybe for an individual or creature, whatever you want to call Sasquatch, because I do believe Sasquatch is the culprit here. Can't prove it yet, but saying Sasquatch is the culprit, it took a lot of time. But if they're an expert at collecting stuff, it maybe to me would take a lot of time. For them, it's just snip, 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 pile, 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 pile. For a bear, to argue that this is a bear, I couldn't imagine the amount of time it would take a bear, and then to reach up and bend something down, snap it off. I don't see that happening, especially with no claw marks or no teeth marks. And in many cases, a lack of bear hair, because a lot of the hair we've collected from these areas is not bear hair. It doesn't match anything. It actually matches primate hair. You can ask Cindy Dotson of Homini Enigma up in Canada. You can ask Dr. Meldrum with his lab and his students, and it matches other unknown hair around North America. So there's so much going for at least unknown behavior and unknown animal or creature or something, rather than the other direction, in my opinion, bar none.
Yeah.
I just want to add one more thing. So the new nest, I went in, it was like 2 weeks after Todd and Shane had found it. I don't think it was 2 weeks. It's like the next weekend, because I was actually supposed to be with them. And they took me down, and that was when I got to see, I mean, devastation. All the huckleberry above your head was snapped, twist broke off all around the entire area. And on top of it, Shane doesn't usually talk about it. Him and Todd put out recorders and camped nearby, and he's got some of the best unknown vocalizations I've ever heard. Some crazy, creepy stuff, scare you stuff.
It is.
And so you've got not only the new nest being built and the huckleberry and the hair, you've got foot impressions, you got hand impressions, and you got audio. That's pretty impressive to me, and that's extremely significant.
Now, I have a question here. I just want to have a really clear image for my listeners, at least, is you say there's 24 nests in total. I guess you guys have already talked about it, but there's 2 different locations, albeit close together. But what was the layout of it like when you guys discovered the first nesting site? I guess not the second, incomplete, but the first one.
The first layout with, like, say 23 nests?
Do the 23 nests, I mean, I think you said they were all in a straight line or something like that.
Yeah. So basically we got going on in this area is you have a ridge line, not a very tall ridge line, but you have a ridge line, and then you have fingers or plateaus coming off it. So the way I like to describe it may seem kind of silly, but imagine your knuckles are the ridge line, and then you have these fingers or plateaus that come off of that ridge line, right? And then below that you have a seasonal salmon creek, very steep decline. Now the original nest site was discovered on, say, the first finger or plateau, and the nests were formed. There was about 7 of them there. There was 7 of them there, and they were kind of in a V formation. So there would have been like a point nest, which would have been facing the creek, or the decline down to the creek. There was a point nest, one of the larger nests that had 2 rocks next to it that we surmised, looking at them, that they had been struck together at some point in time. And then you have, other nests that, if you imagine geese flying in the sky and you see geese flying in that V formation, that kind of setup, not perfect, a little bit staggered, but that kind of formation. Elk do this, elk will bed down, and it's a protective matter. They can, they have, individuals there. It's kind of like, sentry and individuals, they can watch each other. So that's what I always refer to it. It was very V formate in formation. And then so you have that initial nest area. and then you have these fingers, right? And then you have like a kind of a ravine, and maybe 100 yards away or so, 50 yards away, depending. You have another finger, and there'll be more nests here, and then another ravine, and then more nests on this one. You get down to basically the last one, which would have been like five fingers or plateaus away, coming off this western facing ridge. You had a really large nest, like the biggest nest we discovered by itself, all by its lonesome. We don't know what that means, but it was massive. It's the one, if people are familiar, that Cliff's laying in, Cliff Barrickman's laid in it. It's not one we took samples from, so don't worry about human contamination. We need to take samples from that, but it was a very large nest, and a lot of, just the amount of huckleberry collected, it was amazing. But so basically, you have a ridge line with fingers or plateaus, western facing ridge with a seasonal salmon creek down below. Going into this area from above, say from the ridge line, you have very thick, upwards of 8 to 9 feet tall huckleberry, 6 to 9 feet tall huckleberry, very thick. A lot of, I can't think of the name of the pine right now. Chris, help me out here. The pine tree. I'm just drawing a blank.
White pine,
but and also Douglas fir. Douglas fir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, a lot of that in this area. So it's very. So you have all that, and you have, you have your salal berry, you have your Oregon grape in this area. So you have a lot of berries, a lot of berries and a lot of ungulates in this area. So, and it's very, the canopy up above. I remember Cliff Bergman came out and he tried to fly his drone in this area in the woods and above it. And you couldn't see below, you couldn't see from above the canopy of the nest. And to try to maneuver around the trees was a joke. Maybe a really skilled individual could do it really slow now. This was several years ago, but it was kind of a joke. So it was a perfect scenario, perfect place, the perfect storm to build nests. You have the salmon down the creeks below. You have the secluded nest. You'll hear something coming a mile away, and you got multiple escape routes, and you have multiple nests. That's the picture I'm trying to paint here, is that it's the perfect storm of an area. If Sasquatch does indeed make nests, or if some other animal is making nests, this would be the perfect place to build them. You'll stay covered, sheltered, protected, and you have all the food you can eat for weeks on end. So I hope that kind of painted a picture. I don't know.
It did. Yeah. And I can even attest to the drone thing, because I flew my drone over our campsite and couldn't even see where we were camped. Right. And we're talking about neon green tents, like.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but on top of that too, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I remember Derek Randall's talking about that large nest that was kind of off by itself, which he said is reflected in gorilla nest building, as well as the other nests that you found in the bush, right?
Yes. Hold on a second. Hold on 1 second here. I can find it. Do I have it in here? I do not. All right. I'll just tell you. Pick up Gorillas in the Mist. It's a fantastic book. Diane Fossey. Check out Gorillas in the Mist. It's a fantastic book. And I continually go back to it because, I forget stuff. I'm looking for it right now, but I forget stuff. So we, in the Bigfoot world, I don't know even where the word came from in the Bigfoot world, but people use the word sentry, right? Sentry, this individual that goes out on the outside the main group. Because from what I understand with gorillas, especially certain species of gorilla, it's between 4 or 5 individuals, maybe a little bit larger, and they'll have a sentry or more than one sentry. And so a sentry will, in the gorilla world, will go out and build a nest away, several hundred feet or whatever have you, away from the main group that builds a nest at night, because gorillas make a nest basically every night. And so they'll kind of stand watch. Well, Gorillas in the Mist, what a fantastic book. I learned so much from it. And I'm not saying Sasquatch is a gorilla. I'm saying there's a lot of similarities there. A lot of similarities with chimpanzees, orangutans, specifically. Those 3 species I focus on because there's a lot of similarities. And then there's similarities to humans, like I said earlier. But so this one lone large nest just screamed to me century. I can't say it is. I can't say it isn't. It could have been made at a different time, but not by far. All these nests were made pretty much in the same time frame. I don't know if they were hopping from finger or plateau to plateau. I have no idea. I really don't. I wish I did. And answer a lot of questions. That's one of the questions I have on my mind. Or were they made, at different weeks on end? I don't know. But that large nest was so profound to me because it was the largest nest in the area. And it was the only one by itself. Now, we didn't always find 7 nests in one area. Sometimes it'd be 3, sometimes it'd be 4, sometimes it'd be 2. But that one by itself at the end, at the last finger, was just massive. And it just, I don't know what to think about it. But I go back to Gorillas in the Mist. Was it a possible sentry? But was indeed Sasquatch making these things? Is it a possible sentry? Is it something else? I mean, I'm not trying to correlate or tie in everything here, but it just makes you think. It gives you ideas and hypotheses looking at known nature, the things that people have done before you, whether it's in the Bigfoot world or outside of that in the anthropology world and what have you, that you can kind of look at and go, I wonder, is there a similarity there? Because our running hypothesis, Eli, and you know this, is that this is possibly, and it's just a hypothesis idea, that this is, if it is indeed Sasquatch related, this is either a birthing area or like a nursery sort of scenario. Could be way off, could be way wrong. I don't care. But it's a fascinating to think about because historically speaking, there have been other nests found. This isn't the only nest area ever discovered. We just happen to come across the most nests that was shared with us by a timber cruiser, which historically speaking, these are the individuals that always find these freaking nests. It's always a timber cruiser or a timber surveyor or somebody involved in that work, because these aren't areas you go hunt, fish, or hike or camping. They're rugged, they're off trail, they're nasty. You go bump into cougar, bear, bees. These are found by timber surveyors that have a job to do. They are paid to go into these areas. They have to, because they're going to survey an area, flag it off. Here's a creek. We can timber everything west, east, north of this, but we cannot timber this close to a creek. We have to stay this far away. And so there have been other nests found in Alaska, Oregon, Washington, British Columbia. And many people don't know this, and I always liked it because I'm very ecstatic about this, is that in 1967, what happened in 1967 on October 20th, Eli?
The Patterson-Gimlin film was... Yeah.
Yeah. Now, we can argue if that's real or not, but I'm not going to go there tonight. What I'm saying is that Bob Gimlin and Roger Patterson claimed to have filmed a Sasquatch. And if you look at the Sasquatch, if it is indeed a Sasquatch, like I believe it is a female Sasquatch. You can see the breast and all that. Well, a lot of people don't know this, and I bring it up all the time. And I'll give credit to Daniel Perez for discovering this. Daniel Perez does a Bigfoot Times. He's out of California. It's a newsletter you can subscribe to, and I recommend you do. He found this individual named Lyle Laverty. That was a timber, I don't know if he was a timber surveyor or he worked with a timber company. We'll just leave it at that. He worked with a timber company down in Bluff Creek in 1967. And while he was out doing his work, he came across in a remote area above Scorpion Creek, which feeds into Bluff Creek, which is where Patty was filmed. In 1967, Lyle Laverty came across a nest that was right above Scorpion Creek. Like I said, it comes into Bluff Creek. He came across a nest and he described it exactly like we were led to discover in the Olympics. Different material, not huckleberry, different material, but they do have their own huckleberry down there. We're dealing with the evergreen huckleberry. I think they're dealing with a red huckleberry down there, but I could be wrong. Either way, large nest discovered. This guy had never seen anything like this in his life back in 1967, just like this timber surveyor that came across the nest that we were led to back in 2016. So there is a precedence for nests being found. And if you look at Patty, to me, Patty's a real Sasquatch. So if you look at Patty, she had these large breasts. She to me, she looks like a really heavy individual. I personally believe that possibly Patty had given birth or was about to give birth, and that nest was a part of the whole thing, because you tie it all together, and there were tracks found in this area. So it just paints a picture for me that possibly Sasquatch makes nests, not all the time, but for birthing purposes specifically, because I think they'd be found more often, even by timber surveyors. I think they're very rare. And I'll just throw this out there too. I don't think Sasquatch is giving birth every year.
Right.
I think Sasquatch, if they give birth, it's probably more like an orangutan, maybe every 4 or 6 to 8 years. And so that's why there'd be less nests found but they'd be found in remote areas. A lot of these areas have never been timbered where these nests are found, or they've been haven't been timbered in over 50 years. So that was quite a ramble, and I hate taking out the mic here, because we got Chris Spencer, Rebecca Slick, and Cindy, and I'm sorry.
Okay.
No, I think that's I know you just talked a lot, but that was really good and it was really interesting. But
I apologize. I get going and I can't stop me.
You're good. You're good, Shane. I think it's kind of a good place to start kind of winding down. And so I want to ask just a question about, you guys have so much like good evidence that you guys have like sent me. I quote unquote evidence, right? We don't see what's making the sounds in the audio recordings. You know, we haven't seen what's made the nest, you know, and if you really want to go that far, we haven't seen what made the handprint or the footprints, you know, but
Correct.
we can only guesstimate. And you guys have your website, what is it, olympicproject.com?
Yeah.
And like, we can't, I guess an average person can't just go find your evidence online. I mean, we can see it in the Small Town Monsters documentary, or maybe I'm wrong, but is there, and that's been perceived as like secrecy, you know, like you guys are keeping secrets, you know, but just maybe explain a little bit of your guys' reasoning behind why you guys don't share everything you guys have.
I share actually more than I think most people, but I'm guarded against it because I've got a lot of time invested in what I do. I do a lot of work, and I don't need someone else taking my time and effort and using it for their own purposes. That sounds real selfish of me, but look at the real scientific community. They're extremely guarded. They do not release anything till they publish, until they got all their ducks in a row. They continually hypothesize, and they are backstabbers. There is huge drama in the actual scientific community. They are, you know, people talk about the Bigfoot community. In the scientific community, it's the same way. It's just done a little bit quieter and more professionally. They steal each other's work all the time, and they are extremely guarded about any project they are working on. So I share because I know there's other individuals out there doing the same thing I am, and I want to help them, and they might have something to help me, but I don't owe the entire public everything I do. If you want, I'll help you. If you want to go do what I'm doing, cool. I will help you get started. But I don't owe you all the work I put into this. I got a lot of my own money and a lot of my time over the last 7 years into this. So that's where I got personal on there. Sorry, but that's where I come from.
It's okay.
Jane,
you guys all agree?
I do have comments here. I could comment, but I've spoken enough. I think
Rebecca.
Oh no, just adding on to that, I think that we're about quality over quantity, and I believe it's Derek Randalls is the one that said that Bigfoot isn't going to be discovered on Facebook. So what's the point in posting everything that we find just for people to tear apart when there's no reason to? Best thing we can do is go through it ourselves, try to rule everything else out first, and then if it passes all of those tests, it goes into another folder and goes on from there. And Chris has even found audio before that he's gone through, and years later just recently went through it again and either found something else or realized that it wasn't a suspect call. And I think just constantly going through and gleaning and purging everything, just trying to be as cautious with with that. I don't think there's anything wrong in, keeping it tight to the vest, just not showing everything. Because really, and talk about personal, I've seen a lot of people talk about everyone needs to share, everyone needs to share what they have on Bigfoot. And for the most part, people who say that are the ones that aren't really getting audio, aren't really out putting game cameras. And I applaud anybody for being interested in this subject, but please do not spend a lot of your time just expecting others to give you their hard-earned work. And like Chris has said, a lot of money goes into this, a lot of time, a lot of commitment, a lot of emotional energy goes into this. And I think eventually when it is discovered, I believe someday it will be discovered, and then we'll turn things over to the proper authorities. But yeah, it's not going to be discovered on Facebook. So just have to deal with it. Sorry, people.
My take on that is that they do share a lot, but it's usually at talks that they give. And maybe the Olympic Project isn't the quickest on updating their website as well. But I think a lot of the important things, if not all of the important stuff that they collect, they do share at the talks. So do you guys agree with that? Or
No, I totally agree. Here's the thing. I look at people like Barcatino. I'm very proud to know Barcatino. When he got his thermal footage, the Sierra thermal footage, he didn't post it on Facebook right away. In fact, it took him over a year, maybe a year and a half, for him to share anything about his thermal footage, which I think is some of the best thermal footage out there, and also the best analysis, best looked at thermal footage. He did his due diligence. And so I really like to, and I know a lot of us do here with the Inland Project, like to thoroughly vet and do our due diligence before we share a lot of stuff. Now, do we share stuff? Absolutely. I guarantee we share stuff with a lot of individuals that we know that are in this for the right reasons. I don't want to, like Rebecca said, and Derek says this all the time, I don't want to throw something on Facebook for likes or hits. And I don't want to argue with people because I can't honestly, end of the day, I can't prove that Sasquatch made nests. I can't prove. I can have everything but the Sasquatch there and still not prove it. So yeah, it's pointless to post up on Facebook. I'm not looking for likes or hits or Instagram or Twitter. When we do symposiums, yes, or conferences, we do share a lot. You know why? Because people, and I'll point this out right away. We don't make, if we make any money at symposium, it's very, very little. It's not my operandi. It's not my motive, and in most cases, I don't make a dime. I spend money, gas money, and hotel to get there and stay there. And so that's a fallacy when people, oh, you're in for the money. I guaranteed any TV production I've ever done, which is very little, and the ones I have done, I'm very proud of. I'm not made a penny, not a penny. So throw that out the window. And I can speak for anybody here that's done the same thing. So it's not about fame or fortune. It's about sharing it with the right people that respect this and will actually look at it with an open eye, not a skeptic eye. And I don't want to argue on Facebook. I don't want to argue on social media. It drives me nuts. And I used to do that when Facebook came out. I think I joined in 2009. And I used to get in these arguments and argue with people. And I would spend hours. I'm like, it's just like, oh, good point. And I come back with a better point. It's just like, tip. And I just got so bored with it. And I'm like, what a waste of time. You know where my time's better spent? Out in the woods. Out in the woods. Yeah. I'm not going to find Sasquatch, as Rebecca pointed out, on Facebook. It's not going to be proven on Facebook. You can throw a body on Facebook. It's still going to be argued about. It'll be proven within the academic realm. And so what we are doing as the OP once again is collecting evidence. If you want to hear about what we do it at symposiums and conferences occasionally. Got one coming up here at the end of the month. And I love that because you get a lot of really enthusiastic people and you never know who's in the crowd that's had an experience or seen something similar to what you've discovered or come across that, or somebody from academia. All these people come to these conferences and you get to talk with them one-on-one, not behind a screen, not on a computer. You can look them in the eye and they can look you in the eye and they can see what you have in person. And to me, that is special. That is special. And it's more meaningful than showing somebody on Facebook supposed evidence or anything like that. So that's what we do. And that's why we go to these symposiums, talking to people, interacting with them. And there's many people that come to these symposiums that could be on stage sharing their stuff. I'm very fortunate, and many of us are very fortunate to have an avenue and a platform to share what we've come across, our ideas, our hypotheses, and all that. So we do share stuff. It's just people are lazy and arrogant, and so that's why it's not shared online. It's just they're just lazy, and yeah, and they don't deserve it. To be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
I was just going to add, like Rebecca said, for me, I've been doing this going on 7 years now. And yeah, I'm always worried when I put something out there because I've been wrong, and I will be the first to admit that I'm wrong because I'm dealing with sound and stuff. So when I do share something, it's something that's been really vetted and looked at it by not just me, but other people and stuff. And like Shane said, I just don't have time. I mean, literally this year, we've been out in the woods every other weekend. I mean, we just don't have time for it. We're documenting everything. I'm documenting everything that I'm recording, and that takes time. I don't have time for Facebook or arguments about what's what. So
Yeah. Well, as we kind of come to a close here, how can I keep up on the Olympic Project, what you guys are doing? I know there's the olympicproject.com. Is there anything else I should know about? A podcast, maybe? Wink, wink.
Monster X.
Yeah, so
Monster X.
Monster X has been a little bit on the hiatus, but we're coming back strong. And I mean, you look back at a lot of our old stuff. I mean, anybody here that's listening to your show, Eli, wants to know about the nests in depth, whether it's Derek Randall's, myself, Cindy, Rebecca, Chris. I mean, everybody's kind of been on this podcast before. Todd Hale. You can learn about the nests on Monster X Radio. That's a great source. And then we will be updating Monster X Radio and putting some more radio shows out there. With the website, yeah, we lag on it. Like everybody's just super busy. I love the website, and there's a lot of information in there. It needs to be updated. It needs to be kept up with, and we're working on that. We have individuals we brought into the fold that have been putting. Actually, if you go back in there and look at some of the blogs written on the site, they're profound. They're really good. Isaac Tian, he's a very humble individual, but he's written a lot of those blogs, and other individuals have as well. So it has been updated. It could be updated more in the future. It will be Monster X Radio. And then a lot of us join on different podcasts such as this and talk about the subject matter. Of course, go look out Seth Breedlove's new flick, the Discovery, on the trail of Bigfoot, the Discovery, where there's a lot of stuff shared both within the, the YouTube version and the DVD / Amazon version. So there's a lot of information in there. So yeah, that's kind of what, and then of course symposiums. We do them occasionally. I'm doing less of them. I'm kind of being picky now because I've done too many in the past, and my time is better spent out in the woods. But end of the month here, January, we'll be in Kelso, Washington, Chris Spencer's neck of the woods and Rebecca's neck of the woods, doing a speaking engagement where I'm actually constructing a nest and bring it to the symposium. So it'd be something for people to visually look at, rather than pictures and all that. I am going to construct a full-on freaking big butt nest and bring it there, and people can look at it and make up their own mind, or not make up their own mind, but maybe I guarantee it'll leave them with questions, and that's all I want. I want to leave them with questions. I think it's going to be a really cool symposium. So if anybody's in the Kelso, Washington area, check out it. Squatch Fest 2022.
Right on.
There's my YouTube.
Oh, where's your YouTube?
I was just gonna say that, yeah.
Toutle River Valley Skookum, Chris Spencer. It's on YouTube. And
fantastic.
I don't post a lot, but when I have anything profound, I usually put something up. So there's some things we've gotten from the nest area there.
Dang, so you're a vlogger and I didn't know?
I guess. I told you. I post something once a year.
I think I'm subscribed to your YouTube channel. So
I have a TikTok page for my dog.
Yeah.
Do you really?
That's all I do.
I had no idea, Cindy.
Right.
You guys are internet stars. Wow. Well, I do
Eli Watson, but yeah.
Oh, okay. I do want to thank you guys for being on the show. It's always a pleasure talking to you guys. Maybe if you guys are down, we could get you guys back on sometime in the future.
Absolutely.
Love to. Thank you.
Nope.
Cool. All right, everyone but Shane.
I'll mute myself now. I'll mute myself.
Thank you.
Of course.
We want to thank you guys for listening to Cryptid Campfire. We really appreciate it, and we'd appreciate it even more if you left us a rating on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It helps us rank, and more people can find us and join the campfire. If you haven't yet, consider following us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. That's at Cryptid Campfire on all three. Be sure to check out our website, cryptidcampfire.com, where you can find campfire t-shirts and other merch, as well as our weekly blog, expanding upon what we talk about in the episodes. If you've done all that, consider subscribing to our Patreon page. $5 a month gets you access to exclusive episodes and wallpapers that haven't been released anywhere else. For the price of a coffee, you will be directly helping us make this show the best it can be. If you want to follow our hosts, you can find their personal profiles on Instagram at Jasmine May With, that's JasmineMaewith, at Alex Daikaiju, that's at AlexDaikaiju, and at the Eli Watson. Thank you, everyone, and see you next week.
This podcast is a part of Straight Up Strange Productions. Discover more shows like this one at straightupstrange.com.